Okay, this video is for Anker support team to help me through the problem that I'm having with charging limits, and it seems to be limited to around 700 watts no matter what I use as input. So the setup is I have a generator running around the corner feeding this charge inverter. I also tested it with some other means of power supply, AC and DC from different sources. So the setup that I have on the EG4 is currently 48 volts and 25 amps. I've tried lower voltages, higher voltages, lower and higher amps, and it doesn't make any difference at all. But so I have that running. Currently I have one plugged in, one leg, and by the way I have it branched so that there are two branched off of the same power supply, so that could be one potential thing to consider. So if I power this on, it'll ramp up in a second. So it continues to ramp up until it gets to around 700 watts, and then it stops there, and it's been very consistent doing that. Okay, so that's as high as it will go with that power source, even though it really should be higher when you consider that it says it's putting out 48.2 volts and 14.7 amps. So I would expect that it would be higher. And so I have it set to 48 volts and 25 amps. So if I want to turn that off before I plug in another one. If I plug in the second one off of that same power source, power it on, what happens is I can hear it clicking, I can hear it turning on and off. So it's attempting to take in power, but like every maybe 5 to 10 seconds, it just refuses to take the power, just clicks on and off, but it goes down to 0 watts. So if I unplug one of those power sources, it should power up to, again, around the 700 watts. So, and it doesn't seem to make any difference whatsoever whether I use leg 1 or leg 2 that branches off of this power supply. I tested both connections with a multimeter, and they're both perfectly good connections. Either one of them work in either one of the ports on the 3800, but not both together. So then we say, okay, well, it's probably because of this setup with the branching of the power supply. So I tried something else too. This is a Victron 12 volt 15 amp charger, which I currently have set to act as a power supply with maximum output. So I plug that in, everything is as I would expect, so it will ramp up. So that's 139 volts, which given the capabilities of the power supply is about all I would expect. Let me power this off again. So if I add the power from the charge inverter to the power that I'm getting from the Victron power supply, one would expect that you could add those two power sources together. However, it still seems to throttle back to around 700 watts regardless. So it doesn't really matter what I throw at it. It's always throttling to around 700 watts. So you can see it's reached 700, went over for, no, it's over 700 for a little bit, and then just jumps back down. So it's throttling. And then I thought, well, okay, I'll use the AC power supply instead. So I'll plug that in. That's plugged into my house wall power. So it switches over properly. You can see the input rising. on the AC, and it just hits 700 watts and then it just stops. So that's my issue. So I guess maybe there's either one or two issues. One is it's throttling to 700 watts no matter what input I use. And number two is I was really hoping I could use the charge inverter, which is certainly capable of providing even more power than what the claimed input is capable of for the two PV inputs, but I'm not getting nearly the claimed amount with one or two power supplies. So if this Y connection is a problem, like the system is saying, oh, I don't like that power because it's coming from the same source, I'd be interested to know if there's a way to isolate this. But regardless, either port or any kind of input is throttling to around 700 watts. Thanks.